Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I have an interesting person to introduce you to tonight. Her name is Lori Williamson, and she's written a book, and I was intrigued. She made a couple of posts about the book, and I was really quite intrigued to reach out to her and find out what it's all about. Lori Williamson is a mother of two amazing humans, a retired registered nurse, a pastoral care provider, a missionary, and I think there's a story there, a grief recovery specialist. She's a student of life, a writer, and an animal lover. Being a health enthusiast, she's also a yoga and paddleboard instructor. Traumas made an unwelcome entrance into her life at the age of 4, starting a battle with PTSD, anxiety, and depression. She openly shares her story, hoping to raise awareness and empower others. Pen to paper to release the pain was her therapy. Lori, how are you? Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. So tell me, what was the buildup to get you to want to write a book?
It actually started when I was 8 years old, when my grandmother gave me my first journal. She encouraged me to start writing about my life, and I decided I would do that. And it just gradually progressed. When I was age 15, I had written about 300 pages. By the time I was 20, most likely, I think I was around 4,000 pages, and I'm almost 50 and probably about 20,000 pages.
20,000 pages. Now, there's not 20,000 pages in the one book.
No, there is not. This is just a small window.
And your motivation was to do what? To be therapeutic to yourself, or to convey a message, or what?
I think there's a little bit of therapeutic, but also to help others. We're often silenced with our pain, and sometimes when we share it, it allows us to release it, and it can help other people as well.
So can you tell me anything about this trauma when you were age 4?
I witnessed my parents try to kill themselves.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And a lot of people wouldn't even remember stuff at age 4. So obviously it had a huge impact on you.
Yes, correct. It did. It actually, I went deaf when I was 4. I could not hear after that. So by the time I was 8, I had learned that it wasn't actually deafness. It was actually from trauma.
How did you get over it?
I went to a speech pathologist for a few years, and she discovered it.
How would she discover it?
She could notice that I could hear things when I was looking at her face. It sounded more like a muffled sound for me. And I guess I can't really speak. I was 8 years old, how she really figured it out, but she was able to figure it out. And I was able to start speaking properly. Till then, I had a very difficult time speaking. So it's a miracle day for me when she figured it out, and when I was able to finally start speaking my words.
Can you share why they wanted to kill each other?
They actually separately wanted to die. I wish I could answer those questions. I think it was a lot of pain, a lot of addiction, a lot of extramarital affairs. I think that was probably the situation at the time. That's what I've come to know it as to this day.
And they didn't succeed in that effort. Are they alive today?
My mom and my father is. I have not had a relationship with him since I was very young, but my mother is, and she's doing really well. Good.
And then I understand you had some issues later on in life as well.
Isn't that a part of life? I guess just the part of being female, part of being human. I went through some traumas when I was about 13 years old. By the time I was 13 years old, I had been sexually abused by 3 men in my home, one of them being my own father.
Oh my God. And other men being friends of the family or something?
Trusted men, yes.
And how did you deal with that?
I didn't. I became very angry. I think very angry, bitter, resentful, doing all the typical behaviors that a troubled teen would display. And so that kind of took me on a spiral until I was about 17.
And then what happened at 17?
I moved out on my own and learned, and I had to grow up and face some realities and think about my own future. So that I guess that propelled me into going into the career that I did at the time, and that's when I decided I was going to go into nursing.
And so tell me about your career. You were a missionary. Where were you a missionary?
I was a missionary. I've been a missionary in Thailand as well as in my own community, but I've been to Thailand for a few missionary trips. I work with children that have been rescued from human trafficking.
And so is that, again, is that therapeutic given what's happened to you going out and helping others? Is that
Most definitely.
okay?
Yes.
And are these the traumas that are the subject of the chapter in the book?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Well, it's absolutely fascinating, and I'm so sorry that these things happen to you, but it's obviously something that you've got inside of you that you can deal with it all, and you've got the resilience. And I presume that's part of what you talk about in the book, and so I want to hear more about that. We're going to take a break and come back more in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour, Saga 960. We're chatting tonight with Lori Williamson, who is a interesting person. She's been a nurse, she's been a yoga teacher, she's been a paddleboard instructor, and she's written 20,000 pages of stuff, including some stuff that she's put into a book. And Lori, what's the book called?
It's called She's No Longer Silent.
She's No Longer Silent, and your chapter is called?
Just get over it.
Just get over it. Right. Oh, that's an interesting rule. Her life experiences have led her to a mission of bringing attention to social injustices, particularly child sex slavery and human trafficking. Lori is a supporter of two much-needed organizations and is committed to help children heal from trauma. The first, Mighty Oaks Global Initiatives in Thailand, works with children at risk and their families to support and supplement educational costs for children through to university. The second, Destiny Rescue, is an organization that is expanding worldwide to fight the growing sexual slavery demands. Wow. Why did you choose those two?
I went to Thailand in 2011 on a family trip with my children. And we were there for a month and we were trying to absorb the culture. And while we were there absorbing the culture, I witnessed a child probably about the age of 3 or 4 being sold. And that devastated me. And I made a promise in that moment that I would come back and do something.
And so when you go to Thailand in these missionary roles, what is it you do?
So I work with children that have been rescued. I'm not a part of the rescue team. That is mostly gentlemen that tend to that. When the children are rescued, they come into safe houses, and that's where we pour our love and work on them. They've been through a lot of trauma. And
these are, you said you saw someone 4 years old. Are these typically, preteens or teenagers?
We have children as young as 3.
You're kidding. And sex slavery at 3?
Yes.
So I interviewed an individual that runs executive director of a human trafficking operation here in Ontario. And the average age to enter is 16. The young age is like 12 to 14. And the ages that a lot of them that can escape are 18. So that's what creates sort of the average. But it's mainly a teenage issue and problem. Why would it be so much younger in Thailand?
I wish I could answer those questions. It's devastating. It's very hard to comprehend why anybody would want to do that to a child. Your guess is as good as mine. I think there's more poverty, more desperation, people willing to do more to get more. There's a premium for small children, and
that's disgusting.
It is disgusting.
I had no awareness of that. Well, thank you for the role that you're playing in that regard. I understand that you have another trauma that you discuss in your chapter in regards to a bad marriage. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was pretty traumatic. I think anybody who's been through a nasty separation and divorce can relate to that.
Can you tell us anything about that?
I was married for 17 years and together for 20. And it was pretty challenging. I was with somebody who thought very, I guess I can't diagnose because I'm not a psychologist, but if I was to guess, I would say somebody who struggles with narcissism.
What is narcissism?
Oh, that is a very good question. It's so many different things. The key factors are lack of empathy, arrogance, entitlement, impatience, critical. We all have tendencies to have narcissistic traits. It's people that are continuously behaving with those manners over and over, when you would call them somebody that has narcissism.
So you were together for 20 years, married for 17. Some of those years must have been good, no?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's good and bad, but the good is very good and the bad is very bad. There's not a middle ground.
And what was the final straw or trauma in that relationship?
Another affair.
Another affair. So there were prior affairs, or?
Yes, there were.
Throughout the whole marriage?
I would say about every 4 or 5 years, there was some boredom on his part. And yeah, definitely.
And so one more became the straw that broke the camel's back.
Correct.
Or created your trauma.
Well, it contributed to it for sure.
Wow. And so you had this trauma when you were a kid, more trauma when you were a teenager, more trauma when you were a mother and a wife. And then you wrote this book.
Yes.
Do you have in the chapter in the book some, and it's Just Get Over It. Just Get Over It. That's your title?
It is. And it's facetious because nobody really just gets over anything. That's something that somebody who, will say to you when they don't want you to process something. So that was something that I heard very often in my marriage, is just get over it. And therefore that was the title of the chapter.
But you seem well put together and articulate and positive today. How did you get over it, or are you not over it?
It's a process. I would say that we carry our past with us. We don't become our past, though. And by processing it, we won't repeat it. So to stay positive, you just got to keep living in gratitude. And for a long time, I definitely was bitter. And I grieved for a very long time. And then one day it finally shifted into gratitude, because I learned a lot. I learned about things I didn't like about myself that needed to be changed. There was a lot of things.
What didn't you like about yourself that needed to be changed?
There was a long list at the time, but I guess we tend to give up on ourselves when we become moms, and that really kind of the lack of self-care. I think that was what it was for me. I didn't like that I wasn't looking after myself.
What is self-care?
I believe that self-care would be best defined as giving yourself love and compassion, whatever that looks like. If it's a walk in nature, if it's a talk with a friend, if it's a kind voice in your head when you feel like saying, I hate this, or I hate how I'm feeling right now, it's just accepting it, acknowledging it.
Did you not feel worthy of self-care or something?
I think over time I became depleted. Definitely. When you're told that you're a certain way for so long, which happens when you're in that kind of a toxic relationship.
What would you be told you were?
You're being ridiculous. You're too sensitive. You can't take a joke. The list is long. I try not to think about that stuff. But It's called gaslighting. I don't know if you've heard that before.
No, tell me, what is gaslighting?
Gaslighting is a manipulation tactic. It's used to take the attention from when you've done something that's offensive and put it back on somebody else. It's a fancy word of deflecting, basically.
And so your ex-husband deflected and gaslit all the time.
That was a theme in our marriage for sure.
Why did you stay?
I wish I could answer that question as well. I think you just get into the rhythm and routine of a marriage, and you stay focused on your family, on your children, and you just keep going.
Did you love him?
I very much did. Yes, I did.
So even though he was, you say, narcissistic and a deflector and a gaslighter, you loved him?
Absolutely. Yes.
Why?
Because as with everybody, there's good and there's bad. Yeah. The good was very beautiful.
Okay. And so therefore there was one more affair than you could handle. And was there something bad about that one that caused the breakup and the departure and the trauma, or no, you just had enough?
It was too much. Yes, it was too much. Yeah.
Okay. So self-care is one answer. What are your other answers? How does someone, they're abused. They're abused at 12. They see their parents try to commit suicide at 4. They have a manipulative, narcissistic, cheating spouse. How do you deal with all that?
Day by day, breath by breath. I had a mind shift. I guess it would have been when I was about 38, when I started getting more into meditation and yoga and becoming more in tune with my thoughts, my feelings, and my body. And I started to just allow myself to feel it. There was no hiding. And just working every day towards loving myself and accepting who I am and changing what I didn't like. And a good therapist, might I say.
So self-acceptance and self-love and self-care, mm-hmm. and that's it?
I think it's a whole lifestyle. It's a whole attitude. It's understanding that you have control, that you get to choose. You get to choose your attitude every day. You get to choose who you want to be, how you want to behave. I think every day, understanding that every day is a new beginning, that you get to have control over that.
And how long have you been apart?
Oh, it's been over 6 years.
So, I've read a bunch of your posts, and they're quite hurtful, and exhibit a fair amount of pain, I would have thought, and so I'm surprised. I would have thought that your separation was like 2 years ago. So do you harbor resentment for a long time, or what is it that, or am I being unfair in that regard?
Well, a misunderstanding when you say hurtful towards, when you read it, did you feel hurt?
No, I felt that you were still being hurt, that you were still feeling pain, that you were still feeling betrayal, that, that's why I reached out to you and asked if we could chat, that I was wanting to hopefully try to help.
Thank you.
I was worried that it, was top of mind for you. And maybe what you've gone through is a lot. So I guess maybe I can understand that it's still top of mind, but I guess I thought it was like recent, like 2 years ago rather than 6 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's been over 6 years. I think probably the post that you're thinking about was close to when the book launch was coming out. So I think I was trying to capture some of my friends and my audience, people that are struggling with certain things in their lives, try to encourage them.
Now, I've seen pictures of your kids, and they're fantastic looking kids, and they seem like they've got their lives together. How have they dealt with this whole situation?
It was pretty tough, actually, for the first few years. We had a lot of challenges for sure. To respect my children, I can't get into their specific issues, but definitely they did struggle. They were 13 and 16, almost 16 at the time. So they didn't understand. And it was a very confusing time. I think for all families going through divorce, it's a traumatic situation for all involved. Doesn't matter the age, the stage.
Have they read your book?
No.
Do you want them to?
No, I do not. They do know of my childhood, but as far as their father, they need to have a healthy relationship with him. That's very.
Has he read it?
I wouldn't know.
Do you want him to?
I haven't really thought about that.
Do you think
it's not funny?
Do you think it would impact him and change him and make him a better person for whoever his next partner is if you did?
Well, he's still with the partner he left me for. So I don't know. And, I have to be honest. I'm so glad that's not my problem.
Do you think his current partner should read it?
Wow, that's a big question. I don't know, because their journey is their journey.
If someone came to you and said that they are going through trauma based on sexual assault, 20 years ago, and they're in a bad marriage today because of narcissism or an affair or abuse or whatever, what advice would you give them?
So if it's been a long period of time, the first thing they need to do would be to get a good counseling, if possible. Have a trusted friend sit with them. Sometimes telling the story, saying it out loud, can cause a physical reaction. So being very kind, make sure you're eating properly, drinking enough fluids, and sitting with it. What you resist persists. And
what you resist persists.
Correct.
And sounds like self-care is so critically important. Other people might call it, time for yourself. But your meditation, your yoga, your paddle boarding, your sitting with it. Sounds like your 20,000 pages is probably comparable to journaling. So thinking through things.
Mm-hmm.
And you've gone to therapy as well.
Correct.
Anything else? Good friend?
Yeah, great friends, living life and not living life sad, living life in peace, knowing that what has happened to you has shaped who you are, but you're not stuck there. You don't want to be stuck in the past. You don't want to be stuck in trauma. Working through it is a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual journey. Understanding it is a journey, and don't expect miracles to happen overnight. Going through the process day by day, which is a grief process, which you're going to jump from every stage of the grief process back and forth. And then eventually one day you'll get to the other side and reflect back and say, thank the Lord, I made it through.
You've also moved cities. Was that helpful?
In some ways it was helpful. It's a little shocking at 45, 46 years old, moving and starting all over again. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey for sure.
So I understand that there's numerous other authors in this book. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, there's 17 other women that have come into this project together, and each person has a story to share, ranging from sexual abuse, anxiety, depression, bipolar. Everybody's sharing their experience to comfort another. We have a thought or a theory, and that is when you share your joy, it's doubled. When you share your grief, it's halved. And so we lived with that through the book.
That's actually really impactful. When you share your joy, it's doubled. When you share your grief, it's halved.
Correct.
That's wonderful. And so I guess you've had some terrible experiences, but you've come through it and you want to be encouraging.
Correct. Yes.
And you started a new life.
Yes, I did. I started a new life in Bell River.
And you're in a new relationship and a new city.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there is life after trauma. There definitely is. There's life after divorce. You just got to keep moving every day, waking up, putting your feet on the ground, being grateful for what's in front of you right then and there, living in the moment.
Lori Williamson, thank you so much for joining us. If people want to buy your book, how do they do that?
It's available on Amazon. It's available on, it's actually right here.
Show us again and show us the title.
There we go.
She's No Longer Silent.
Correct.
Lori Williamson, author, someone who has come through some pretty tough experiences, and someone who wants to encourage other people. And I love the line, if you share your joy, it's doubled. If you share your grief, it's halved. What a wonderful line. And it sounds like self-care, resilience, self-love, self-knowledge, and getting through things and moving on is the key lesson. So Lori, thank you so much for sharing with us tonight.
Can I add?
Please do.
When you help somebody else, that is probably the most healing thing that you can do. Truly.
We're going to take a break. Come back in just a minute.